The great hall of the Galactic Assembly stretched endlessly upward, its crystalline spires capturing and refracting the light of 1,000 distant stars. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the center of the vast chamber, her ceremonial United Earth uniform crisp despite the lengthy journey. She was humanity's first representative to the Assembly, and the weight of that responsibility pressed heavy on her shoulders. Around her, the assembled representatives of over 300 spacefaring civilizations lounged in their gravity-adjusted pods. The Mursk's fur rippled with barely contained amusement. The Volthani's compound eyes flickered in what she had learned was their equivalent of rolling their eyes. The mighty Zaxthar, current leaders of the Assembly, didn't even try to hide their disdain. Honorable Assembly, Sarah's voice carried clearly through the chamber, enhanced by acoustics perfected over millennia. Earth comes before you today to present our application for full membership, as is our right under the Galactic Charter. High Counselor Zextol of the Zaxthar leaned forward, his iridescent scales catching the starlight. And what tribute does Earth bring to prove its worthiness? What fleet stands ready to defend our borders? What technologies will you share to advance our collective knowledge? Sarah tapped her wrist console, and a hologram materialized above the chamber center. A single ship hung in the void, the UES Artemis. Its sleek lines and obsidian hull seemed to drink in the light, making it appear smaller than its actual kilometer length. The chamber erupted in laughter. One ship. Zextal's melodious voice carried notes of both amusement and pity. The smallest member race maintains at least 100 vessels. The Zaxthar Empire fields 10,000, and humanity expects to join our ranks with 1. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Artemis is more than sufficient. More than sufficient. First speaker Till of the Mursk practically purred the words. Your species has barely mastered faster than light travel. The Artemis would fit in one of our cargo bays. What possible contribution could it make? If I may, Sarah gestured to her console again. The hologram expanded, showing the Artemis in greater detail. We believe in quality over quantity. The Artemis represents the pinnacle of human innovation. We've taken a different approach to space travel and combat. Different. Zextal's scales flickered in what Sarah recognized as condescension. We have perfected space warfare over 50,000 years. Our ships are walking apocalypses. Your vessel wouldn't survive first contact with a proper warship. The chamber's atmosphere grew tense as the High Counselor rose to his full height, towering 3 meters above his pod. Perhaps a demonstration is in order. The Zaxthar maintain a training ground in the outer rim. We could arrange a friendly competition. Sarah's smile didn't waver. She had expected this, counted on it, even. The Artemis would be honored to participate in such an exercise. Then it settled. Zextal declared, his voice booming through the chamber. 3 days hence, Earth's pride will face a standard Zaxthar battle group. When your ship is inevitably destroyed, remember that we offered you the chance to withdraw your application. As the Assembly members filed out, already placing bets on how quickly the human ship would fall, Sarah opened a secure channel to the Artemis. Captain Rivera, they took the bait. Understood, Ambassador. The captain's hologram appeared above Sarah's wrist. Should we show them everything? No. Sarah watched the last of the Assembly members depart, their mockery still echoing off the crystal walls. Just enough to make them think twice about underestimating humanity again. In the void above the Assembly world, the Artemis hung silent and dark. But deep within its quantum core, calculations were already running. The ship's AI was processing combat scenarios, while its crew prepared systems that would redefine what the galaxy thought possible. They had laughed at humanity's single ship. Soon, they would understand why Earth needed only one. The Outer Rim training ground stretched across an entire solar system, its space dotted with asteroid fields and decommissioned battle stations. The Artemis hung motionless against this backdrop, its obsidian hull reflecting nothing, absorbing everything. Inside the ship's command center, Captain Maya Rivera stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the approaching Zaxthar battle group through the quantum blast viewport. Their ships were beautiful in a brutal way. Massive constructs of crystalline alloys and plasma weapons, each one 10 times the size of the Artemis. 5 heavy cruisers, 10 destroyers, and 15 support craft. Lieutenant Kai reported from his tactical station. They're not even trying to be subtle about overwhelming us. Maya allowed herself a small smile. They never are. Status of the Q Core. Dr. Elena Santos, their quantum physicist, looked up from her console. Her dark eyes sparkled with anticipation. The quantum probability matrix is stable. All configurations are primed and ready. Good. Maya touched the neural interface at her temple, connecting directly with the ship's eye. Artemis. Battle stations. The ship's lighting shifted to a deep blue as crew members moved to their positions. Unlike traditional vessels, the Artemis interior could reconfigure itself, walls and corridors shifting like liquid metal to optimize for whatever situation they faced. Incoming transmission, Kai announced. The holographic display flickered to life, showing High Counselor Zextal's massive form. His scales rippled with barely contained glee. Captain Rivera, we've arranged quite the welcome for you. I trust you understand these are live weapons. We wouldn't want you to feel we weren't taking this seriously. Perfectly understood, Counselor, Maya replied smoothly. Though I should warn you, human ships don't behave quite like what you're used to. Zextal's laugh boomed through the command center. Your bravado is admirable, but misplaced. Begin the exercise. The transmission cut off, and immediately the Zaxthar ships began moving into attack formation. Their energy signatures spiked as weapon systems powered up. They're using the crescent moon formation, Kai observed. Classic encirclement tactic. Maya nodded. Time to show them why that won't work. Dr. Santos, initiate quantum fold. Elena's fingers danced across her console. Q-fold initiating in 3, 2, 1. The universe seemed to hiccup. For a fraction of a second, reality itself bent around the Artemis. The ship existed in multiple states simultaneously, a consequence of the quantum technology that humanity had perfected while other races focused on brute force. To the astonished Zaxthar observers, it appeared as if the Artemis had split into 5 identical vessels, each one moving with impossible precision. By the first star, one of the Zaxthar commanders exclaimed, "How are they?" The quantum-folded Artemis vessels danced through the Zaxthar formation. Where the alien ships moved like lumbering giants, the human vessels flowed like water, each movement precisely calculated by the ship's eye. First wave targeting solutions ready, Kai reported. No destructive weapons, Maya reminded him. Show them our containment fields instead. Streams of quantum-entangled particles erupted from the Artemis copies, surrounding 3 of the Zaxthar destroyers. The massive alien vessels found themselves trapped in localized fields where the laws of physics had been temporarily rewritten. Their weapons fired, but the energy dissipated harmlessly into quantum space. Impossible. Zextal's voice crackled through the comm. No ship can manipulate spatial fields at that level. Maya's voice was calm as she responded. Humanity learned long ago that the universe isn't limited by what seems impossible. We don't build bigger ships. We build smarter ones. The Artemis copies continued their dance, systematically neutralizing the Zaxthar fleet without firing a single destructive shot. Where the aliens expected a battle of firepower, they found themselves facing an enemy that simply rewrote the rules of engagement. Q-fold stability at 85% and holding, Elena reported. We can maintain this configuration for another 10 minutes. We won't need that long, Maya said softly. Look. The Zaxthar ships had stopped firing. Their formation had broken down completely as commanders struggled to deal with an enemy that defied their understanding of physics. 3 of their heavy cruisers were attempting to retreat, their engines straining against quantum fields that turned their own momentum against them. This is High Counselor Zextal. The alien leader's voice had lost its earlier mockery. We We yield the exercise. Maya nodded to Kai, who began powering down their systems. The quantum folds collapsed, leaving a single Artemis floating serenely amidst the disabled Zaxthar fleet. Exercise concluded, Maya announced. We appreciate the opportunity to demonstrate our capabilities. As the quantum fields dissipated and the Zaxthar ships regained control, Maya knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy had expected humanity to follow their path of bigger ships and stronger weapons. Instead, they had shown them something entirely new. The age of brute force was over. The quantum age had begun. The galactic assembly chambers had never been so quiet. The holographic recordings of the training exercise played again and again as representatives struggled to comprehend what they had witnessed. One human ship had effectively neutralized 30 Zaxthar vessels without causing a single casualty. High Counselor Zextal's scales had lost their luster, dulled by wounded pride and growing fear. But beneath that fear burned something more dangerous. Rage. This was a deception. He thundered, his massive form towering over the assembly. The humans concealed their true capabilities. They made us look foolish. Ambassador Chen stood calmly at the center of the storm. We concealed nothing, Counselor. We simply didn't volunteer information you never asked for. Your assumptions about our capabilities were your own. Then you won't object to a real demonstration of power. Zextal's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. No training exercises. No simulated weapons. A true test of your quantum technology against the full might of a Zaxthar war fleet. Warning signals flashed through Sarah's neural implant. Captain Rivera's voice echoed in her mind through their secure quantum link. They're already moving their fleet into position. This isn't a challenge, it's an ambush. Sarah's expression remained neutral. The Assembly Charter prohibits unprovoked military action between member races. But you're not a member yet, are you? Zextal's scales rippled with malicious glee. Your application is still pending. And if your single ship is truly as capable as you claim, surely you have nothing to fear. Throughout the chamber, other representatives shifted uncomfortably. The Mursk delegation's fur stood on end. The Volthani's compound eyes darted between exits. They all knew what was coming. Very well, Sarah said quietly. If the Zaxthar Empire insists on this course of action, Earth will defend itself. Defend? Zextal laughed. I have summoned 500 ships from our home fleet. 500 against one. This isn't defense. This is extinction. In the void of space, the Artemis quantum core hummed with energy. Captain Rivera stood in the command center, watching as space itself seemed to tear open. Zaxthar warships poured through the ruptures, massive, crystalline vessels bristling with weapons that could shatter planets. They're not holding back, Kai reported from Tactical. Those are planet-killer-class weapons. They mean to make an example of us. Maya touched her neural interface. Dr. Santos, is the new configuration ready? Elena looked up from her quantum calculations, her eyes gleaming. Theory suggests it should work. But we've never attempted a fold of this magnitude. Time to test that theory. Maya opened a channel to the Zaxthar fleet. This is Captain Rivera of the Artemis. You are engaging in unauthorized hostile action against an assembly applicant. Stand down. The only response was a barrage of energy weapons that could have vaporized a small moon. But where they expected to find the Artemis, their beams passed through empty space. Q-fold initiating, Elena announced. Full spectrum probability cascade in 3, 2, 1. The universe held its breath. Then reality fractured. The Artemis didn't split into 5 copies this time. Instead, the ship seemed to exist everywhere at once. Its quantum state spread across the entire battlefield. Hundreds of versions flickered in and out of existence, each one as real as the last, each one carrying a fraction of the ship's consciousness. In the assembly chamber, the holographic display showed chaos erupting across space. Zaxthar ships fired desperately at targets that existed in multiple places simultaneously. Their powerful weapons found only void or, worse, struck their own vessels as the Artemis quantum field redirected their energy. "What sorcery is this?" Zextal roared. "Not sorcery," Sarah replied calmly. "Science. Humanity learned long ago that the universe is stranger than we imagine. While you built bigger ships, we studied the fabric of reality itself. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 10 minutes. When it ended, the mighty Zaxthar fleet hung motionless in space, their systems locked in quantum stasis fields. Not a single ship had been destroyed, but none could move or fire their weapons. This is what humanity offers the assembly." Sarah's voice carried through the silent chamber. "Not the power to destroy, but the knowledge to transcend traditional warfare entirely. We don't need a fleet of thousands. We need only one ship that understands the true nature of space and time." In the void, the quantum probability field collapsed, leaving the Artemis once again singular but unharmed. Captain Rivera looked at her crew, seeing the same mix of pride and exhaustion on every face. They had changed the galaxy today. The age of quantum warfare had begun, and humanity would lead the way into this new frontier, not through force, but through understanding. The aftermath of the Zaxthar confrontation spread through the galaxy like ripples in a quantum pond. In the weeks that followed, the Artemis found itself at the center of a diplomatic storm that would reshape galactic society. The great archive hall of the Assembly had been converted into a conference chamber. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to witness something unprecedented, a technological demonstration by the humans they had so recently mocked. Dr. Elena Santos stood before the gathered dignitaries, her holographic displays showing the basic principles of quantum folding technology. The Volfeni scientists' compound eyes were fixed on her equations with religious intensity. Even the Mursk, usually dismissive of lesser species' achievements, had sent their finest minds. "The key was never about building bigger ships," Elena explained, her hands moving through the holographic models. "We realized that space itself is far more flexible than traditional physics suggested. Every point in spacetime exists in multiple probabilistic states simultaneously. We simply learned to navigate between them." In orbit above, Captain Rivera was conducting a very different kind of demonstration. The Artemis hung in space, surrounded by ships from a dozen different species, all of them there to learn. "Your ships are powerful," Maya explained to the assembled commanders through their shared quantum link, "but they're limited by conventional thinking. Watch." The Artemis's quantum core pulsed. This time, instead of combat maneuvers, the ship demonstrated its peaceful applications. A damaged Mursk freighter was enveloped in a probability field, its torn hull existing in a state where the damage had never occurred. A Volfeni science vessel found itself instantly transported across the system through quantum tunneling. "The applications go far beyond warfare," Maya continued. "Imagine rescue operations where a single ship could be in multiple places at once. Imagine scientific exploration, where we can study phenomena from every possible quantum state simultaneously." Back in the archive hall, the questions came rapid fire from the assembled scientists. "But the energy requirements," began a Zaxthar physicist. Elena smiled, "are minimal once you understand quantum efficiency. Your ships burn through enough energy to power a small sun. We use the existing probability waves of the universe itself. The computational complexity," started a Volfeni researcher, "is handled by our quantum eye," Elena replied. "The human brain's neural patterns provided the template. We don't force calculations, we let them flow naturally through quantum states." In her private chambers, Ambassador Chen reviewed the latest reports with satisfaction. The Zaxthar Empire's influence was waning as species after species requested human assistance in developing their own quantum technology program. "Ambassador," Maya's hologram appeared on her desk. "We're receiving requests for technological cooperation from over 40 species now. Even the Zaxthar have quietly sent representatives." Sarah nodded. "And how are our guests adapting to the training program?" "Better than expected. The Volfeni especially. Their grasp of quantum mechanics is remarkable once they let go of their traditional assumptions, even had one of them suggest an improvement to our probability mapping algorithms. Good. Sarah turned to look out at the stars. That's exactly what we hoped for. Humanity didn't come to the galaxy to dominate or to hide our achievements. We came to share, to learn, to grow together. The Artemis continued its demonstrations, each one revealing more possibilities. Ships that could exist in multiple states. Quantum communications that couldn't be intercepted because they technically never travel through space. Probability fields that could prevent accidents before they happened. But it was in the smaller moments that the true revolution became clear. A Maersk engineer working side by side with a human quantum specialist, their differences forgotten in their shared excitement over a new discovery. A Vultheni ship successfully executing its first quantum fold, its crew celebrating with their human trainers. The galaxy was changing. The lines between species blurred as they came together to explore this new frontier. The Artemis had become more than just a ship. It was a symbol of what was possible when technology was used to unite rather than divide. And in the quantum probability streams that now connected the galaxy, the future looked brighter than ever before. 1 year after the Zaxthar incident, the Galactic Assembly gathered for a historic session. The Great Hall had been transformed, quantum probability fields shimmering between the crystalline spires, allowing representatives to attend from across the galaxy simultaneously, a gift of human technology. High Counselor Zextal, his scales now a humble shade of blue-gray, stood before the assembly. The past year had changed him as much as it had changed the galaxy. A year ago, he began, his voice carrying through quantum space. I sought to destroy what I didn't understand. Today, I stand here to propose something unprecedented. A complete restructuring of the Assembly's technological development protocols. The Artemis orbited above, but it was no longer alone. Ships from dozens of species now incorporated quantum technology, each adding their own unique innovations to the original human design. Captain Rivera washed through the quantum blast viewport as a Vultheni research vessel practiced probability folding alongside a Maersk exploration ship. The humans didn't just give us new technology, Zextal continued. They showed us a new way of thinking. For millennia, we measured progress in terms of size, power, and destruction. They taught us to look deeper, to understand the very fabric of space-time itself. In the Quantum Research Center that had once been the Zaxthar War Academy, Dr. Elena Santos worked with a diverse team of scientists. Their latest project displayed in shimmering holograms around them, a galaxy-wide quantum network that would allow instant communication and transportation between any 2 points in space. The old measures of power are obsolete, a Maersk representative added, their fur rippling with excitement. My people once prided ourselves on our fleet of 10,000 ships. Now our single quantum-enabled vessel can accomplish more than that entire fleet ever could. Ambassador Chen sat quietly, watching the proceedings through multiple quantum states simultaneously, a skill that had become common among those who worked closely with the technology. The changes went far beyond military or scientific advancement. Species that had been bitter enemies now collaborated on quantum research projects. Trade routes that once required massive armed convoys were secured by quantum probability fields that prevented piracy before it could occur. Therefore, Zextal concluded, I propose that the Assembly's primary mission be redefined. No longer will we measure a species' worth by the size of their fleet or the strength of their weapons. Instead, we will judge them by their contribution to our collective understanding and advancement. The vote was unanimous, the first time in Assembly history that all species had agreed on a major policy change. Later, on the Artemis observation deck, Captain Rivera stood with Ambassador Chen, watching the quantum streams flow through space like rivers of possibility. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? Maya asked. Sarah smiled. Honestly, this was always the plan. Humanity learned from our own history that true power doesn't come from domination. It comes from understanding, from pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and from sharing that knowledge with others. The Zaxthar are proposing to convert their remaining warships into quantum research vessels, Maya noted. Apparently, their engineers are fascinated by the possibility of combining their crystalline technology with our quantum systems. And that's exactly why we succeeded where they failed, Sarah replied. They saw different technologies as threats. We see them as opportunities. The quantum core of the Artemis hummed softly, its energy intertwining with the ships around it. In quantum space, probability streams showed countless possible futures, but in every one, species that had once dreamed of conquering the galaxy now worked together to understand it. The humans had come to the stars with a single ship and changed everything. Not through force, not through fear, but through the simple, powerful act of showing the galaxy a better way. In the endless quantum dance of space and time, a new age had begun. And humanity, the species that had once been mocked for their tiny fleet, now led the way into that brighter future. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of irony after all.